Hello, how's it going, guys? It's Megan Graham, and I just thought I would pop on. I haven't been on my Instagram live for mold recovery lately, so I just wanted to come on while I multitask as usual with the babies. So hello, by the way, guys. Feel free to say hello, pop into the chat. Let me know if you're on. I always feel it feels so nice to know that friends are on and chatting with me, etc. So I have been really busy to the max lately. So I haven't really been able to come on here, but I just traveled, which I don't do a lot these days. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what it looks like to travel with mold toxicity when you're in recovery from mold toxicity and some of the things that I do. So I will just say, so my husband is often in Aspen, Colorado during the ski season, and I don't know what is going on behind me. Oh, the cat. Anyway, he's usually in Aspen, Colorado during the ski season, and I haven't traveled a lot lately, and I wanted to get on here because I know that there are some people that are just figuring out that they have mold toxicity. And even as someone that's been dealing with it for several years while I work on getting better, it can be, excuse me, somebody, it can be really hard to wrap your brain around mold toxicity. And not that I'm trying to tell anyone that they have limitations, but I think for me, growing up being a competitive athlete and doing all these things that I really didn't feel like I had any physical limitations, it's really taken a lot for me to wrap my brain around the fact that I have to have some limitations right now, and I only have so much energy, and I have to do my best to conserve it, to protect it, and take the very best care of myself. So I figured I would get on here because some things came up during my travels, and I think because I feel, generally speaking, so much better, I maybe expected traveling to go a little bit better, and it actually was super, super tough. So if I look bad today, it's because I'm still not feeling my best because I've been actually having a difficult time recovering from the travel itself. So I'm going to be grooming Alfie while I do this because I've got more stuff than I can even describe going on right now. But I did want to get on because I feel like if I don't get on once in a while to chat, I feel like I'm kind of like letting people down by not getting on here because I know this is a difficult thing to go through on your own. So, things that I do when I travel. So, number one is I pack my supplements in a pill organizer. So, I try to have everything that I need with me in a really organized way. And the pill organizer, it just reminds me if I've taken something, if I haven't taken it. And for me, sometimes I also make a choice about whether I'm going to take something or not, depending on how I'm feeling. So I really do sort of like feel it out. But the pill organizer is really helpful. There are usually at least a few slots that I don't take. And then what's nice is that when I get back and I have to sort of like slide back into my regular routine, which is pretty challenging, at least I have everything good to go and I can just take whatever I need. If you're just joining me, hello and thank you. Please feel free to say hi in the comment section as well. I'm Megan Graham for anyone that's on here that doesn't know. So number two, what I do when I travel with mold illness is I have a can of oxygen at home. So I traveled to Aspen, Colorado, which is at altitude. And I normally have quite a bit of trouble with my blood oxygen levels, even at home. So when I go to a place that's higher altitude, I basically know that I'm going to have a trickier time with my blood oxygen levels just because I'm now at altitude. So I think my blood oxygen was somewhere around 86 for a few days. I was pretty tired and I really respected that. And I didn't go overboard with what I was doing. That is a pretty low blood oxygen for anybody that doesn't know, that doesn't follow their blood oxygen. And I was feeling really tired. I went to the gym and just did some movement basically. Took some walks, and even my husband and I went skiing, and I was just having a really tough time skiing. So, for me, traveling with mold illness, I guess I've also learned that sometimes you have to alter your stuff and you just want to do things the way that you've always done them. But I think it's really important to respect your body and know that there are different phases of healing. And if you can't do something that you usually do, it doesn't mean you're never going to do it again. But it does mean that you have to be really respectful of your body. So I grew up a downhill ski racer, and I mean, I was a super fast skier. I was on two ski teams, never really had an issue with anything, didn't have any physical limitations, but I was really tired in Aspen. So I decided to call it a day after one run because I was so tired. And I think that when you get injured skiing, it's usually when you're tired. So anyway, that was what I did. Bill, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, you're in that's Idaho, right? ID. Sorry for a simple question. I won't say a dumb question because there's no such thing as a dumb question, but I think it's Idaho, unless it's Indiana. Not sure. But thank you so much for joining. Oh, that's great. You're picking up your dog in 2 days. I don't know if you know, but this one's about mold toxicity. So I never know because I think people just see my they see my live streams and they're not really sure, but that's very exciting for you. So not only do I travel with a can of oxygen, I also bring my cell core or microbe formula supplements, and I bring oxygen drops. And I also make sure to take oxygen drops every day just to make sure to oxygenate my body as much as possible, which makes a huge, huge difference. So number 3, this is a tip that I learned from my mother, who actually was a flight attendant when she was younger, but it also helps me when traveling with an autoimmune issue. And that is that I always stay on my own time zone. So when I go to a place like Colorado from Boston, that often means that I'm going to go to bed super early. But it really works for me. If I try to change too many things at once when I'm traveling, it's just too hard on my body. So I will say that the first night that I got to Aspen, I was in bed by 7:30. And some people might think that's really funny, but I'm truly just working on taking care of myself and feeling as good as possible when I'm there, as well as when I come home. So I stay on my time zone, which does mean that I wake up super, super early. So I think that the first morning I was probably up around 4:30 because I get up at 6:30 here. But it really felt better to me not to have to go through a time change, even though it was daylight savings time. So I did go through that, but I do stay on my current home time zone. I realize if you're going to Europe or something like that, that could be really hard. But as much as possible, I do that. So number 4 is that I go easy with my exercise. And of course, it probably depends on what what place you're going to. As far as going to Aspen, because you are so high with the altitude, if you do have mold illness, if you've been impacted by it, your breathing is often impacted, your energy levels are impacted. So, just know that you can't do everything all the time. And it's okay to just go to the gym and, or not go to the gym, but just get some movement in, be super gentle with yourself. I was doing really well at the gym before I left. And then when I got to the gym in Aspen, I was really, really tired. And so I didn't push myself. Again, it's really about listening to yourself and not feeling bad about, at least for me, not feeling bad about any limitations that you may have. There's always going to be another time where you're going to feel stronger because you're doing all the things you're supposed to do. So I just went super easy. I still went, the movement still felt good, but I went pretty easy. So that comes to number 5, and that is to listen to your body and rest as needed. So, obviously before all this happened, before there was a flood in my apartment and I got sick from mold, I could do more and I could pack my schedule super, super tight with stuff. But now if I overdo it, I tend to get extremely, extremely tired. So I rest where I can, and I just don't pack as many things in. So it's really easy to just overdo it. And one example of that is that my husband and I had planned to go snowmobiling for our Valentine's Day celebration, and I was so excited to go snowmobiling. I grew up, for those of you guys that don't know, I grew up in New Hampshire. We did a lot of things like snowmobiling. We did a lot of outdoor activities, and so I was really excited. And I had talked to my husband about it and about the fact that I was going to ride on the snowmobile behind him. And I think he was really busy and he didn't quite hear me. And so he actually got me a snowmobile for myself. And here's where it gets a little bit confusing, guys. So, you know, me, true me, was like, wow, that sounds so great. I'm so excited. And then I kind of remembered, but I'm so tired and I wasn't feeling so great at the gym and things like that. And so it was kind of like this little moment where I didn't really I knew I wasn't excited about getting on the snowmobile, and I actually knew it wasn't a good idea or a safe idea simply because I was so tired, and it takes some energy. I mean, driving around a big snowmobile, even though you're sitting, it's still effort, right? You're thinking, you're being safe, you don't want to hurt anybody else. And so I had this moment of where I didn't feel I almost wanted to cry because I didn't feel like I could do it, but I didn't really want to let anybody know that I was human and I was tired and I wasn't sure if I could do that. And I also felt rude about letting them know that we had reserved a snowmobile, which I didn't know about, and I couldn't take it. But I collected myself and I realized my saying that I always do inside of myself is, if it's not a definite yes, it's a definite no. And I knew it wasn't a yes to take that snowmobile because I knew it wasn't safe. I knew I was already really tired and that I could handle sitting, but I just couldn't do it. So I went up to a really particularly nice female guide that was going to take us snowmobiling. And I said, you know, I'm really excited about this. I was wondering, I've got some health issues and I get really tired sort of easily. Would you mind if I just rode behind my husband? I hate to waste the snowmobile that you reserved for me. And we're happy to pay for it, obviously, but I don't think I can safely drive it. And she was so cool about it. And so, anyway, so I rode behind my husband. It was a really good, beautiful day. I had the experience that I needed to have. And I don't know, maybe you need to hear this and maybe you don't. But it's really up to you during this time where you're working to recover your body. You're the only one that can gauge how you feel. You're the only one that knows how you feel on any particular day and whether you can handle something and whether you can't, whether it's going to be a good experience or whether it isn't. So, at the beginning of this, I had trouble speaking up. And sometimes I got myself into situations maybe where somebody was spraying a chemical around me that made me sick, or I was overtired and then I made it worse, or I didn't speak up. And so just kind of letting you know it's okay to speak up. It's okay to take a break when you need it. There's nothing wrong with you if you need to take a break. Just do it respectfully and kindly. And also look out for everyone around you, because if you do get tired really easily and you do something like, say, hop on a snowmobile, you could wind up hurting someone. So anyway, I was super proud of myself. I know that might sound like a little thing, but I spoke up to protect my health and my energy. And I wound up having just the most beautiful day. We went snowmobiling, we stopped for lunch, and it was a really awesome experience. So I was super, super glad that I did speak up, and also that I happened to get such a friendly person that was so nice about it when I asked her if it was okay if I didn't take the snowmobile. So that might sound like a small thing to some people, but when you go through changes in your physicality where you don't always feel like yourself, I think it's a big thing to speak up for yourself. And I think like there's this feeling of, you look so normal, you look so fine. So letting people know that maybe you can't do something can feel weird, because mold toxicity is almost like an invisible illness, in that most people that are going through it might not feel good, but they usually look pretty good. Maybe not as good as they know they could look, but pretty good to other people. So it doesn't look like there's anything going wrong. It doesn't look like you're tired, but you know that you're tired. So just kind of an important thing. Guys, if you're just hopping on, welcome. Feel free to hop into the comments, and also feel free to chime in with any questions that you have as well. Even though I'm talking away, I always just try to come on here because there's not a lot of information for mold toxicity. And I think that for people that are just experiencing this, it can get pretty overwhelming, because if you look on the internet, it's really hard to find anything that is helpful, and to figure things out as you go. So that's really why I get on here to share a little bit. Number 6, and this is pretty basic, and I think most people should do this anyway, but I do pack snacks when I travel, and even when I'm already to my destination, I always make sure to have food, because when you're traveling, there tend to be these big breaks where maybe you don't eat as much as you're supposed to. And I can tell you, with trying to get better from, being tired from having mold illness, that it makes a really big difference to have some snacks. During this time, I've gotten more, they call it hangry. And I know it's kind of like a funny thing, but once my energy really falls, it's hard to get it back. So I usually have something like, I do beef jerky. Sometimes I do like an apple or piece of fruit. I might just have some protein powder and add some water to it, or something like that. So I do, different things like that, and it makes a really big difference for me. Absurd Trickster, how are you? I like your name, by the way. It says, I'm tired and depressed all the time after a mold situation with a nasty landlord and I lost everything. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Absurd Trickster. I have to say, I don't think landlords are ever they're not ever very helpful with mold situations. And I hear all the time about people trying to take them to court. And I feel like it's just like an impossible situation. Even if you're right, there's so little knowledge at this point about mold illness. So I'm so sorry that that happened, and that you lost everything. I don't really have any light to make of it because I know what a hard situation it is. I don't know if you've seen any of my other videos or if this is your first time watching any of my mold videos, but I've got quite a mold playlist at this time where I talk about the different things that I've done that have made a big difference for me. And I will say that even though everything has made a big difference for me and I'm in a much, much, much better spot than I was last year, I still feel like I have some, a ways to go with my healing. So I know it's a really big thing. And you're not alone. So I'm so sorry that that happened to you. Such a difficult situation. Oh, Mariana, thank you so much for letting me know. I am so glad that that worked. I had a funny feeling it would work because it was the same thing with my dog Poppy. So, oh, that makes me very glad. Thank you so much for telling me. That's awesome. So number 7, guys, and this is a really big one this is what I do when I travel, and it doesn't mean that you have to do it, but it is something that I have found works really well. That is that I don't plan or commit ahead to activities. And if I do, I always let people know. If it's really just with people that I know really well, I just let them know that I have to see how I feel that day, because it can be really, really difficult to plan on activities because with this going on, if you're recovering from mold, unfortunately, especially when you're traveling, you just don't always know how you're going to feel. You can think, you can anticipate, this is how I will feel. But then sometimes, especially when traveling, your body may not cooperate. For instance, I did everything that I could to feel my very best so I could go skiing. I think it was like the second morning that I woke up in Aspen. I went to bed early. I didn't have a drink at all. I like wore my blue light glasses. And for whatever reason, I could only sleep for 1 hour. And I don't even think I slept for 1 hour. I don't remember sleeping at all. As far as I know, I didn't sleep at all. And I think with that high altitude and low oxygen, that is something that can happen in that your body is just having such a hard time getting oxygen that it just won't fall asleep. And even if you do fall asleep, it's not the same restful sleep that you're used to. And so we had planned on going skiing, and I did try to go skiing. Fortunately, it was just with my husband, and he was really understanding about it. But like, honestly, I was so tired, and I'm in pretty, good shape, but I was so, so tired that I just couldn't wait to be to the bottom of the mountain. I kept looking and I was like, are we almost there? I had to stop to breathe. And it was a little bit disheartening, but you know what? At the end of the day, I wasn't going to try to be a hero and do another run because I wasn't going to hurt myself. And so just know that I try not to flake on people. And so that's why I either wait to make plans or I just let them know. I'm just going to see how I feel that day. If I can't do it, it's not because I don't want to spend time with you. I just don't know how I'll feel. And I think it's important to communicate those things because, we do want to keep our friends and we do want people to feel respected. So you just kind of have to communicate it to people whenever you can. Absurd says, my skin was perfectly clear and now it seems like I always have red, harsh, almost eczema, pimply skin, and regular doctors have no idea what to do. It's like I have red goosebumps that don't go away. So Absurd, definitely please check out some of my other videos because obviously I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you what to do, but I had a lot of skin things pop up, and so did my dogs actually as well. So my dogs are also detoxing from mold toxicity. Just so everybody knows, I put a lot of links in my description, and I do a lot of links to things that have worked for me. It's not everything I've ever done that I link to, but I try to link to things that have been important. So I have another video about the microbe formulas detox, and that has been a huge help for me personally with my skin. The problem with mold toxicity and when you get sick from mold is most of the time, if you did get sick from it, it normally means that you have to actually remove the mold toxins from your body. And regular doctors, unfortunately, don't know how to deal with that. So a lot of times it winds up being that we sort of have to figure things out on our own. You can sometimes find a good functional doctor that can be helpful for you. I did see a functional doctor, but I wound up treating myself with the microbe formulas protocol. I did it in the exact order. I didn't try to pick and choose like what I thought would work, what wouldn't work. I did the entire, sorry that I'm brushing my dog as I go, just lots of stuff to get done today. I'm selling tons of clothes on Poshmark, so I'm going to take pictures and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, we're paring down because we are going to be doing some traveling. Speaking of travel. So anyway, basically I do a bunch of different things absurd. I do the microbe formulas detox protocol. I also take the, there's a biotox binder at the very beginning, and I actually take that and I mix it with bentonite clay and I put it on my face to draw some of the toxins and some of the impurities out. But at the same time, I also treat internally and pull those toxins out, because it is the toxins that tend to do that. For many people, it's also the fact that our microbiome is off and our liver is really sluggish from all the things that it has been dealing with to detox our bodies. So I know that's a lot of different things. Trying to think of who I can also tell you to read, but actually if you go, so I've got a link to microbe formulas, and if you start to go in there and you click on the Learn tab and you look at a lot of their information, a lot of their, they have like live with the doctors, you can look up almost anything that's happening and start to see it, and they have a better medical explanation for you. But that is what worked really well for me. I also do sauna to get the toxins out. And I spend time on a PEMF mat to help with my circulation and some of my healing as well. So those are a lot of different things that I do, but I also had that frustrating thing. So if you watch mold toxicity symptoms, which is one of the first mold videos that I did on YouTube, you'll see that I went to a bunch of regular doctors and they really didn't help me. They didn't help me at all. And even after I figured out what it was and I went to my regular doctor for something else, he literally looked at me like I was a hypochondriac. So for me, and it might be true for you too, I think it's true of a lot of people that have this issue. It's really frustrating to know that you have something going on with you and to have a regular doctor just kind of look at you like you're, sorry, Alfie, just look at you like you're a hypochondriac. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but the last thing that I ever want to be is sick. The last thing that I ever want to admit is that I'm human. Yeah, so allergy-like meds won't help absurd for a few different reasons. So for instance, Benadryl pushes your histamines into your brain, which is most likely, who knows why it might cause Alzheimer's eventually. I take quercetin to keep my allergy symptoms lower while I'm removing the things from my body. But it's really, the problem is like with mold, it's that you have something in your body that's not meant to be there. And so your body, if you are like me, doesn't know how to get the mold toxins out, and they continue to recirculate in your bile. Definitely absurd. Watch my video. I promise you, you're going to think it's interesting because it's going to make a lot of sense after. So you're going to like the video on when I first got mold symptoms, and then the video that I made about microbe formulas is really interesting. Then there's also one about 10 things that I do to recover from mold. And, also just know it's fortunately, I don't know how to say it. It's a long game. It's not something where we just start to, work on getting better and we instantly get better as we would all love to. I feel like for me, I don't think I thought I was almost better. And I don't think I really saw true healing until I started the microbe formulas. And just, that was a year ago. I've been going at this for a year. And I think everybody thinks healing is going to be like smooth sailing. And my healing's been like, it's definitely going up, but there's so many peaks and valleys along the way. And sometimes it's like so frustrating because you just feel like you should be better. And it just doesn't all happen at once. I totally get it. Same, absurd. I went from having boundless energy to wanting to lie in bed all day. So absurd. It was really the same with me. And I own a hair salon. Before this happened, I was a competitor, a fitness competitor in the WBFF. I was working for a modeling agency in New York. I was visiting my husband in Aspen, walking the dogs, like going to the gym, lifting 350 pounds. And then there was a flood in my apartment. And within 2 weeks, I could barely get out of bed. And I was crying all the time. And my stomach was bloated. And I felt crazy and I couldn't sleep. And I just have to say, so much of that is better. Like, how I feel like, yes, I'm tired after traveling, and I definitely am sort of like babying myself right now. But how I feel right now is nowhere near as bad as how I felt before. It's like, it's just so crazy. Absurd. Are you also, you're 45 as well? Yeah, that's exactly, it's exactly the way that I felt. Absurd. I felt like at age 30, maybe even 40 years in 2 weeks. And I will say I don't feel that same way now, even though I still have work to do and I can. I'm just very protective of my energy, because if I hit the wall, if I go past my point of energy, like I have more now, but if I go past my point of energy, I have trouble getting it back. So the reason I'm so tired now is that I went to Aspen and was very tired because I was having a lot of trouble with my breathing there. And then came home, but on the way home, I got stuck, in Chicago O'Hare because of United Airlines. And so I got stuck there, and I wouldn't let myself get upset about it because I know it's not good for yourself to get upset. So I was like, it's okay. It's just going to be an overnight. I can afford a hotel. So checked into my hotel, was on long phone calls, just trying to get a flight back in the morning because they kept changing my flights. And so didn't get to bed until 12, and then had to get up at 3:45 in the morning to get on a flight. And I was like, not going to complain, just get it done. I can do this. But the level of tiredness that I felt from doing that and running my body into the ground, like then I came back and I had to work that day and also the next day, and they were really busy days. And so anyway, I'm just getting it back now, but I do understand the tiredness thing, and it is a lot. It is a lot, definitely. Number 8 for things that I do when I travel, guys, is I really feel it out. And it says, if I am feeling off, I take a break from my supplement. I'm like, sorry, I'm just looking for my little comb that I had a minute ago, but where do I put things? It's not that I take, a break from taking anything at all, because I try not to just do, I try to stay on a pretty good schedule. But if I feel like, maybe I'm going to, like, maybe this morning is a lot for me. Maybe I'm going to take these binders a little bit later, like after lunch. Like the day of snowmobiling, I didn't take my binders in the morning. I decided to take them after snowmobiling because I knew I would be inhaling a ton of exhaust. Which could definitely bother me, because most people that have mold issues also become more chemically sensitive. So I did take my binders after, and there were just a few times where I probably didn't take the things I was supposed to, like 10% or 20% of the time. But then I still had them in my pill organizer when I got home. You can be next, Poppy. And so I did take them when I got home. But I really just, listened to my body, and did what I could. I think it's always important to be reasonable and just celebrate, hey, I did what I could. Like when I went to Chicago, and I was stuck in that hotel, I did what I could. I got a clean hotel. I got some face wash that was like okay for me. I sort of ate, I'll be honest, I kind of ate whatever because that's what was available, but I did what I could and I controlled my attitude. And sometimes that's all that you can do, and that's okay. Yes, absurd. It has changed a lot. It's funny because I still feel like there's some things that I want to be even better, but it's really not bad. Like I just have a tiny bit of tinted moisturizer on today. My eyes are a little bit dark just because I'm tired. I slept for 9 hours yesterday, and I think this is my Whoop. I wear it for recovery, and it gives me an idea of like how much I can do today. And so I'll give you guys an idea of what it says. I like it a lot because it helps me to be reasonable with myself. So this morning it said that I was at 49% recovery, which like isn't really that good. And my HRV is 28, which also isn't that good, not for a 45-year-old. So my strain, which is the blue line, is not supposed to go past the yellow line. So I already worked out today and I'm kind of taking it easy and I try to actually listen to it. I find that when I listen to this, which isn't always possible, I am able to recover better. My strain went way past my recovery on a few of my travel days. And that was really what was just so like, there's nothing you can do, right? You can't just like sit down in the airport and be like, sorry, but I can't strain anymore today. I'm just going to sit because my recovery was only this last night. But whenever possible, I just try to listen to it and not overdo it. Like I was still not recovered yesterday. So I really just didn't do too much. I did some gentle like housework. I'm becoming an essentialist and getting rid of anything that I don't need. So I was really going through my closet, but nothing too strenuous. I didn't leave my house. So Absurd says I had scabs on legs, face, scalp, and arms. So did my dogs. I never really had scabs, but my dogs did have scabs. And I've been detoxing them. Like this little baby girl was having a lot of liver issues. She's doing a lot better now because I've been detoxing them with the Poly Pet, which is in my it's in my links and it's so funny. I was on I do a lot of Yorkie videos as well. And I said something about the fact that I was detoxing my dogs the other day and a lady came on and was like, detoxing your dogs. And, she did like 4 question marks and you could tell that she was kind of like laughing at me and she thought it was ridiculous. And the truth is, I think most people need to detox and they have no idea. And maybe sometimes the fact that people, I don't want to make light of getting sick from mold, but sometimes I think of it as a blessing that it happened to me because truthfully, I needed to detox anyway. And it took like the universe shaking me and telling me to detox for me to actually take the time to do it. Had I done this before I got sick, I think it would have been so much easier. My body was functioning well. My kidneys were working better and it would have just been so much easier. But you know what? It is what it is. And I think like a lot of people might think it's silly and they might think it's just this like fad or something like that people do that they really don't need to do. But it is, I believe, a really important thing. So anyway, I thought it was funny that she laughed at me, but she didn't understand. Even if you haven't hit the skids, detoxing to me is always a good thing. So it measures a bunch of different things. Like there's a health monitor, which measures your respiratory rate, your blood oxygen, which my blood oxygen came up a lot last night after I slept for 9 hours. It actually came up to 97%, which is really good for me. Your resting heart rate, mine is still pretty high. It's 61. I can't usually get it down very low. HRV, which is actually more important than your heart rate. Your heart rate variability is the most important metric, and it's off for a lot of people. So I love this because most things that I've ever used don't measure your HRV, but it's really important to know that. And then it measures my skin temperature. It measures the different kinds of sleep that I get. So it's really popular with professional athletes. And like just to show you the day that I woke up that I slept for like 4 hours, it said I was at 20% recovery. And like the blue line just shows how far past what I was supposed to do I did. And that explains why I'm having such a hard time recovering. For me, and I just find it to be like comforting somehow to see it because you'll have these days where you're like, why do I feel like this? And it helps you to figure out maybe some patterns of things that you do that make a big difference. Like, why do you get better sleep on some nights? Why is your recovery better? Your recovery, if like say you do work out and you do a pretty big workout, your recovery might not be that good that day. It might be better the next day, or maybe your body can only handle a few medium workouts a week. It just gives you a good litmus. It also tells you, like for me, drinking is really not a great idea in all of this. It really impacts my recovery, my sleep. And so when you start to see that stuff and you're doing everything you can to get better, I think it becomes instructive and you can decide, like you can be like, okay, this is worth it. Like definitely I wanted to go out in Aspen. I did have a few tequilas. Like it's, sometimes I just want to be a person as well and do some things that are regular. And so I don't try to be a perfect person all the time. I try to be as good as possible most of the time, but also sometimes you just feel like you need to like live a little bit and stuff. So that's kind of where I am with that. But I love it for tracking my stuff. And it just lets me know when I can do a little bit more, but it's pretty darn accurate for me, which is awesome. So number 9, things that I do when I travel, I run thieves oil. So my husband's apartment is not a sort of perfect environment for me. And, there's really nothing I can do about it. There's carpeting in there. It's in a big building, so there's like a pretty high chance for water leaks and things like that. So I do a few things. He runs thieves oil before to get the mold levels as low as possible. And then we also leave the windows open when I'm there so that we can have like a lot of fresh air, which fresh air is a really good thing. Like if you can't get out of a place, you want to get out of a place, it's not the best place, try to get some fresh air. I mean, it makes a huge difference. Take a walk every day, get more oxygen into your body. Sometimes all we can do is what we can do, right? And I know like as someone who was sort of like trapped in my old building for quite a while because I couldn't find another place to live, I know that it takes some work to get out of your place. So you just do what you can. But so that's what I do when I travel. And I also I bring it for hotels as well. And if I feel like there's an issue, I mean, obviously if there's a huge issue, then you check out and you find another hotel. If you just feel like you need to spruce up the hotel a little bit, you could run it for like an hour while you go get some dinner or get some groceries or something like that, then come back, throw open the windows and turn it off because you can't be in your hotel while you run thieves oil. Number 10 is that, so I rest as much as possible when I get home. So I did have to work when I got back, but I don't make any plans. So again, I respect my body. And I know that might not sound that fun, but at the end of the day, you get one body, you get this, a certain amount of energy, and you just have to respect it. So I've gone to be pretty good at having boundaries and saying no, and just knowing like what I can do and what I can't do. And, just like being really protective of my time and things like that. No, I've talked about that before. I think the landlord should have legal action against them. They're a really terrible slumlord. For me, it was a choice of was the right thing for the landlord to get sued and to pay. Of course, I lost like $100,000 in income in 1 year from being sick, from not being able to do as much stuff. My dog died. So many things happened. I paid for a $10,000 business class that I could barely sit up for, so I had to leave Las Vegas early. But you know what? Absurd. It's really like, for me, it was a choice of I have so much energy and I just don't have the space to have the stress or to make that my fixation. The way I look at it, there's always more money to be made. Like if you look at my links, I produce beauty products. I own a business. I'm an ambassador for a lot of different products. Like if I like a product, I always approach them and ask to be an ambassador. And a lot of times, just for the record, just in case anybody, this is like a side, I have so many little side things that I do. A lot of times companies will say no initially, but then I talk to them about like the fact I only approach companies that I use their product, and I only talk about products if I love their product. So it's like, whether I was an ambassador for a company or not, I would always be recommending that product. And it's so interesting because I've had people like on the internet say, oh, well, I didn't know this was a sponsored video. And I'm like, well, it's not a sponsored video. I actually never take sponsorship money for any of my videos, but I do talk about things that I honestly use that benefit other people. And sorry, guys, this is what happens when I groom dogs. I get dog hair in my mouth. Gross. But anyway, I do talk about things. And of course, absolutely, I ask them for, can I get like a commission if I recommend the product? Because I would be recommending it anyway. I would never, ever recommend something just for money. I would be recommending something that I would recommend no matter what, that made a difference in my life, so people don't have to find something as I found it. like for instance, whip. I always forget how you're supposed to say it. I call it whoop. I think it's whip, or I don't even know how they say it. But anyway, it's one of those things I've only read. And so I wrote them and they said no. And then I wrote them back and just said, you probably don't know this, but I'm a member. I have one. I love it. People are always signing up for them because of me. And I'm also using it to help recover from an autoimmune illness. It really helps me in my recovery. So I feel like I'm the perfect person for you. And they actually wrote me back and they were like, I'm so sorry. Of course you can be an ambassador. So for me, I do a lot of other side hustle things. And so the way I look at it, it's like I can make the money back. I don't have to sue them to make the money. But I think everybody should do what they want to do, whatever feels right for you. I personally, not only do I not thrive with conflict, I don't think with the physiology that it creates for me to have conflict going on that I could get better if I was in a conflict for, whatever, a year or however long it takes to have a lawsuit. I just don't think that I have it in me to do that. But they were terrible. They're terrible when I left. They told me I could leave my building and move whenever I wanted to. And when I found a place, which it took me a while to move, then they tried to sue me. So not only did I not sue my landlord, and by the way, if anybody wants to know who my landlord is, I won't directly say, but it rhymes with elated, and it's a huge company and they have a super bad reputation. And if they see this, they're terrible people. So, but I didn't sue them, but they were just like the most terrible people. I was like, but you put it in writing that I could leave. And they were like, yeah, we put it in writing, but it wasn't a legal document. It was only an email. And I was like, you are terrible, terrible people. So that's how I feel about them. Absurd says, do you have to live separate from your husband because of mold? Is there any? No, of course I don't. Is there any objective testing to know how much if it's out of your system? You can test. I can't remember the name of the different things to test. I haven't tested lately. I can tell just by how I'm functioning that it's so much better, and I am going to test, but it's just, for me, it's not worth it to test all the time whether the mold is out of my system. It's incredibly expensive, and I am so in tune. I mean, one of the lucky things is like with my body, being an athlete, I'm really in tune with it. Like I can tell any little thing before I look at my whoop. I already know if there's an issue. So I'm going to test again, just not for a little while because it's not really that important to me. I can tell when my kidneys get really bad, I usually tend to get really sick to my stomach and dry heave a lot. And that hasn't happened for quite a while. So it's usually for me more physical symptoms that tell me what's going on. My husband owns a business in Aspen, so sometimes he has to go there and check on his business. I own a business in Boston, as well as the products I'm launching. 3 new products online. I've got a link to my black makeup towels that I make and I sell online. That's a really successful product. And then I've got my YouTube, my ambassadorship. So we just have a lot going on. And I always just try to, I hope it's helpful when I hop on here for people. I know this was very last minute, but it kind of goes back to that. I don't know how I'm going to feel. So I haven't really been able to plan ahead because sometimes I just I don't like to flake on people. But if I plan ahead, I don't know that I'm going to be able to do it that day. It really, really depends, right? So those are really my main things. I don't know if anybody has any more questions. I'm happy to answer them as best as I can, but just wanted to kind of come on and talk about travel a little bit. And I do think that a lot of the things that I did were helpful. I was so excited when I got back and I could get on my PEMF mat again. I did my sauna yesterday. I've got an amazing, amazing Therasage sauna. So those things made such a big difference for me getting home, getting back on my routine and everything. So those are little things that make a difference. And, we're planning on eventually getting a solar travel trailer. I think that's going to be an easier way for me to travel because we're not going to travel really fast. We're going to kind of stay places for a couple of weeks and then move, get a lot of fresh air, and so on and so forth. So anyway, kind of exciting, but thank you so much for joining. And if you see this later, feel free to comment on the video. I've got most of the things that I talked about, I've got in links, and I hope this was helpful. I think sometimes it's just also nice to hear from someone that's going through it, because there's just not there's not a lot on the internet. Like I looked online to see if anybody else had talked about travel, what they do for travel, and there really wasn't much on there. So anyway, those are just the things that I do. I do sometimes travel with my mat. I didn't this time just because I wasn't there for too long. Um, and if you're not following me on YouTube, please follow me on YouTube. If you haven't hit the like button, I always appreciate it. If you do, hit the like button and yeah, check out my links below and things like that. And just let me know if I can help you and ask me any questions and let me know about your journey with mold. Absurd says, yeah, it's drastically affected me and my finances. I totally get it. And that's a really common thing. Also, absurd. If you haven't looked at it yet, look at Brian Rosner. Look up Brian Rosner on YouTube. He's got some really, really good mold videos. It says I was throwing up every day in a different place now, but I think I made the mistake of trying to save some things that that are still contaminated. Yeah, that can definitely happen. I didn't get rid of all of my things, and I don't know if that was the right thing to do. Eventually, when we travel, I'm going to leave all of my things behind, and I think that's really going to be the test is how I feel about things that I'm around when I get re-exposed to them. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining. Just wanted to get on here and know it was kind of short today, but always nice to see you guys, and I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.